Good afternoon. Today on the Business Spotlight interview series, I'm joined by Andy Barker, who's one of the owners of Concept Project Groups. Good afternoon, Andy.
Afternoon, Mark.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you do and for how long you've been doing it, Andy?
Yeah, I'm one of the owners of Concept Project Group. We've basically set Concept Project Group up because we were looking for solutions in the market that gave us an engineering edge. I used to be salary staff, so I seen that there was not a lot of engineering companies who offer a kind of agile one-stop shop for engineering, turnkey kind of solutions, and that can be anything from providing a bit of an extension to the client's existing projects team as a support function really for a lack of resource or a lack of expertise, right through to anything which might be a specific engineering solutions requirement for any of the manufacturers dealing with. It could be turnkey, it could be part turnkey, solutions really, which are sort of required by the manufacturers to move their business forwards. So yeah, so that's typically what we're providing, an engineering solutions provider really.
And when did you set the business up, Andy?
So we set the business up. We're coming up to our fifth birthday on the 21st of August this year. And it kind of came out of necessity really, because I was in between things from a professional perspective, and myself and Steve Tunstall, who's the other owner of the business, we talked for a few years about achieving this sort of business setup together, and it was just about time, and timing was sort of really good for us both. So we decided to just, let's just have a go and see how it goes, and here we are 5 years later, in a nice position, I guess.
Very good. We often in business try and define success. Are there any sort of specific people over the years that you would say kind of encapsulate success in business?
I think there's lots of people. I think I'm always cautious over the kind of the description of success, because success is different for everyone, right? And I think
Mm.
success is about your own expectations and how you match up to them. I think so. I've seen a lot of people in the professional world who are very successful in the home life. Yeah, so they've got the
Mm.
work-life balance nailed. I've seen obviously the obvious success factors that everybody seems to be judged on is income and position in the hierarchy, but actually that's not the right measure for everyone. And I think there's lots of people who have looked at over the years, and professionally and obviously personally, but professionally, since you asked about the business, who have not necessarily got the best job title or the best income, but actually they've just nailed
Mm.
how they want to live their life, and you know they're the people who are deemed really successful, actually, because it's different for everyone. It's about your own expectations. So I know that's not a direct answer, but that's how I measure success in my head, because it's different for everybody, and it's based a lot around your own expectation of what you want to achieve in life.
Very good. And unfortunately, we've all come through this pandemic now. It does seem a little bit more in the past, doesn't it? What sort of business changes do you have to make through COVID?
Well, well, we were kind of in a state of growth at that point when COVID hit, and fundamentally our business resides across a lot of commodity goods and stuff like that. So we're in some factories who produce foods and cleaning products and stuff like that. So when COVID actually struck, it was a really strange phenomenon, because we as a business were in more demand than we were prior to COVID. So it became quite a bit of a boom moment for us in as a business, and that really ironically set us off on the path that we've arrived at today. And I think that, yeah, it was a a horrific time for the world and for a lot of people individually. business wise for the people who were involved in those sectors, it was quite a intense period where there was a lot of demand, and fundamentally we couldn't service that demand, across the board for the amount of requests that come in. So it was actually the springboard of our business growth, COVID, which is a really strange situation to be in. But obviously we were fortunate on that level. I think that how we're seeing business change is that the world kind of shrank a lot. So a lot of our business is linked to, dealing with foreign suppliers, maybe going abroad, traveling to sites further afield to view technologies. And actually, I think COVID forced a technological change with and a change in approach to the way people dealt with these foreign visits, or factory acceptance tests, or visits to the factories, and it allowed the kind of whole technology to take up a little bit more and get a grip. And I think obviously you come on the back of COVID and you see that everybody's using Teams. We're on Zoom today, and that kind of allowed a different train of thought to develop in everybody's brain. So I think that we've sort of followed that through as a kind of concept, if you like, into the way we work. So if we don't have to go abroad to witness a piece of equipment, we don't do it. If we don't have to go to site, we don't do it. Equally, we're engineers and we need to see the equipment, so there's a balance in there. But I think it was a strange time, which threw out a few benefits for us as a business, and actually I think the whole world's adapted into this kind of more visual way of managing, or virtual, sorry, way of managing meetings and stuff like that. So we've carried that through, I think, as well.
So generally, improvements really in the way we do business. But for the sectors you were working in, there was that immediate need to increase capacities and be more efficient, and that was beneficial to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if you think of the mechanics of what happened during COVID, and not forgetting it was a time where Brexit hadn't long sort of started to sort of show itself. There was a lot of migration. People wanted to return to their homelands and families and stuff like that, which kind of left a bit of a labour shortage within the UK generally, and that labour shortage gets filled by automation. And I think obviously our whole business is about finding engineering solutions for these types of problems. So I think a lot of companies were forced down that route on the basis of the kind of basic labour wasn't available, so they had to invest in technology, and that was why, really, a key reason why we were so in demand at that time.
Very good. And you talked about started this venture about 5 years ago. What have been some of the biggest learnings you've had as a business owner, Andy?
I think the biggest learnings as a business owner is we spend a lot of time with your head down, running as fast as you can at times, and it's really important to kind of get your head up and celebrate successes, because let's not hide the fact that having your own business and running your own business is challenging at times, and can be quite stressful when you consider the facets that you're having to deal with. I'm not just an engineer anymore. I'm not just a project engineer. I'm now also a HR manager, a recruitment manager, and everything else and that goes with running a business. But very, very, very easily, it's easy to ignore the ability to look back and reflect on what you've achieved and the steps you've moved forward. And I think that's kind of been the biggest learning, because when you hit difficult moments in business, when you hit those moments where you feel like you stood still or static, it's important to look to reflect backwards and really have a look at what you've achieved and where you've come from. And I think the majority of business owners who do that can kind of take some sort of solace that actually they're moving in the right direction. And there's the old sort of adage: if you're making yourself or your business 1% better each day, it's still 1% better than you were yesterday, and over time that accumulates. So I think my biggest learning has been don't sort of consider success, if you like, in my own expectation, like we said before, in reflecting on the week before. Look at where we've been, look at the business journey so far, and that can sometimes allow you to sort of reflect on the reality of a situation rather than the moment.
Yeah, very good. And what are your plans for the concept in the next 5 years?
So I think the immediate plan in my mind is from a again an organisational perspective, we're hoping to double the size of the business. We have got a clear strategy in the next 3 to 4 years on how that looks. 5 years down the line, again, it won't be too dissimilar. But I think again, just thinking about what we've just talked about there, as long as we're doing the right things and we're moving the business from in line with our kind of culture and ways of working that we know are the right ways of working, the rest kind of comes along with that. So we're not trying to force the numbers, we're not trying to force the issues. The growth, what we're going to do is let that come naturally. So in my mind and in the plan that we have got, it's showing that we should be doubling the size of the business, probably a little bit more. But in reality, it's a plan we're aspiring to. But as long as we're sort of progressing at 1% each day, that's the main thing for us. I think as long as we sort of keep that in mind, that's really where we want to be.
Very much a hot topic at the moment is employment and the skill base in our region, but nationally as well. How are you finding that in concept?
Yeah, I think it's a really kind of diverse sort of subject. That I think there's pockets of industry that we're in where we're seeing that it's definitely a kind of candidate-led market where you've got a definite oversubscription of jobs versus people available. I think engineering feels like it's one of them at the moment where you can pick good people up, and you're having to fight for good people from a business side. We're having to fight for good people at the moment, and the candidate has a lot of control. So I think on an individual level, there's pockets um, of let's say skill sets who are able to really almost like fight you, get you into a bid more with them. I think that's kind of what we're seeing from in our sector. That generally there is a general shortage of engineers. I think generally in the UK, in the region, I expect it to be reflective of the national situation. So there is a skill shortage, and we do need to encourage more people into engineering at the younger ages, from a base level and with apprenticeships, with graduates coming into the field. So there's definitely a level of encouragement that needs to be done, probably nationally in reality on that scale. So I think that's where my mind's at from a sector point of view. I think employment generally in the region feels like there's lots of opportunity out there. It's just about understanding whether those opportunities are right for the demographic of the people we've got in the region. And I think that's what, again, I'm not so sure is balanced at the moment. I mean, we find it as an example, we found it really difficult getting um, administrative assistants administrative assistants got there in the end, versus sort of engineering resource. The CVs coming over the desk for engineers has been more than the CVs coming over the desk for administrative assistants, and that's kind of a really strange sort of revelation for us. But yeah, it's just a show of the state of the imbalance in the industry in the region at the moment.
Yeah, and you're right. It's across all roles. It's not specifically any engineering specifically. It's everything. It's trades. It's admin. It's an interesting, yes, candidate-led market certainly. And what would you reflect on have been some learnings when employing people?
I think we've tried really hard a concept to embed a culture of people enjoying coming to work. I think that's kind of one of the big things that if you don't get it right at the start of your business, it's very difficult to pull it back round further down the line. And I think we've all, I would say, most people will have worked for bad companies or bad bosses or whatever it might be, and we've sort of tried to bottle that feeling and say, well, this doesn't happen in concept. We try and look after the people in the way that you look after your family, and I think that's what we've tried to do with everyone coming through the door. And I think the biggest learning from people is kind of that cultural attraction of a business is a lot more important than um, the salary side. And I just think that a lot of people miss that relationships is massive in humanity in general. So we shouldn't take our eyes off the fact that people do care about how the office looks, how the culture feels, how the boss is treating them. And we've kind of tried to adopt them principles in the way we've set concept up, and make sure that people come into the organization feeling like they're part of something, and feeling like that everybody knows the children's names and the wives' names, so like that. So we're trying to really get under the skin of the personalities and the personal situations of our staff, so that they do know that we care. And I think that goes a long way with people.
And I think its importance is added to because of what we just discussed about the lack of people out there. So it's important to keep good people and retain them. And that certainly that care culture is a very key part to that. And nice to hear.
100%. Retention is equally as important as recruitment at the moment, and for a business like ours, it's almost essential, because of all the points we've talked about prior to this.
Very good. Probably one of my favourite questions now. It's always reflecting on your 18-year-old self and what you'd advise your 18-year-old self, and that vast knowledge that you've now accumulated.
You know what? I think it's a difficult question, that, I think, because I'm not one as an individual to kind of dwell on the past too much, and I kind of say, well, the path you ended up traveling down is the path that got you to where you are now. So actually, would you change much? Have you got many regrets? Of course, everybody's got regrets and stuff like that on a personal level, and sometimes professionally as well. I think the advice I would give to myself when I'm 18 is more on a sort of attitude level. I think I run a children's football team, yeah, like an under 15s this year football team, and the phrase I'm using a lot with them, or I've used a lot with them, is talent. Is hard work beats talent every day of the week, and I think as long as you've got that work ethic, and you sort of um give the best version of you every day, then anyone can be successful in their own in their life. Anyone can do it. I think it's just a measure of how hard you're willing to work to get there. So hard work is something I'd definitely be sort of reinforcing to me younger self. And then also probably the other thing is again, we touched on it earlier about relationships. Relationships are so important to business. They're probably the most important singular um, skill that you've got to learn if you want to be successful in business. I think relationships, people people give people jobs. People don't give company jobs. Yeah, very rare. So you've got to cultivate them relationships and that's if we all end up in professional situations where it's tricky and you need a bit of help. If you've cultivated them relationships in the past, then you'll get the help. And so I think that's the other thing I would say: focus on relationships. Make sure that you really caring about people on a human level, and that goes a long way in business.
Great lesson. Great lesson. And final question from me is obviously you're looking to grow the business. Are there any specific offers that Concept have got for their clients currently?
Yeah, so I think we're doing quite a lot of promotions at the moment. I think what one of the offers is that we're looking at giving any new clients 10% off the first purchase order with us. And then also from a referral perspective, if anybody refers us and it results in again a purchase order or successful tender for a new client, then we will have a referral fee of £200 back onto the main introducer. So yeah, they're the main offers we have at the moment.
Nice to share. Andy, thanks so much for your time and your wisdom, and best of luck for the future. So
Oh, thank you.
have a great day.
Appreciate it. You
Thanks,
too.
Andy.
Thanks, pal. Bye bye.